Watch this full series at the links in the description below and subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch new mental health videos every week. I want to start by asking you why so often we feel like we need to get over the feeling of grief and why it's actually okay to be not okay.
I think both as human beings and also certainly pervasive in our culture, we really want to reach goals. Let's check it off. Let's finish this, So grief is painful. Grief is not really a pleasant feeling. And so people want to say, well, when am I going to be done with this? And I think we need to change our conception of that. It's a process. It's an ongoing process. You may never get over it. And that's okay. That's okay as long as you can still carry on with your life, that you can kind of move forward and be able to do your activities of daily living. And if you have these punctuated moments where you're still sad and you miss the person, that's totally normal and it's okay.
Yes. I will share with the viewers that the biggest moment of grief and bereavement I've ever had in my life is when I lost my mom when I was 16 years old. She died of cancer. And the reason I'm sharing that is because I understand that that's not unique.
Right.
A lot of people lose a parent.
Right.
Most people end up losing a parent, And so I share that because I think part of the healing process for people is to understand that their scenario is not that unique. Right. And you've shared your own personal loss and grief in our series. Would you mind sharing any of that with our viewers here?
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right, it's not unique. We all have some kind of familiar theme that we deal with when we lose somebody we love. So I lost my grandmother, who was a second mom to me 4 years ago. And it was really tough. It hit me actually a lot harder than I thought it would. I think I just had this really vague notion that I was just going to keep living forever.
I get that.
So then when you all of a sudden have to come face to face with the fact that, oh no, bad things happen to good people, and sometimes untimely and sometimes surprising or whatever, it can be very difficult. And sometimes because of people who are trying to be there to help you, you actually feel more alone because they'll say things like, oh, but that's just your grandma. I've literally had somebody say that to me, like, oh, so that's a grandma. It's not like your mom or anything. But I don't think that they were trying to hurt me. They were just making a comment, right? And sometimes that makes you feel more alone, like, oh, what's wrong with me that I would grieve so hard over a grandmother, right? And so I think sometimes there's that judgment that comes with this whole process of grief. And again, you have to let yourself take the time that you need to get over it with the methods in which you think will be the most helpful for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I want our viewers to make a comment below if you feel comfortable enough doing so. And I want you to share a time in your life where you did experience loss. And this can be a first pet, this can be a job, relationship, it can be anything you want. But share what that was like for you and how you ended up moving through that process and onto the other side and living the life that you live today. I think those stories would be really amazing and inspirational to hear about. Why is it so important to learn to work through this situational depression or this adjustment disorder?
I think sometimes when the pain comes up, people want to avoid it. They want to
Right.
ignore it. They just want to push it out because, hey, who wants to deal with that? But the more you repress or the more you avoid something, the more it'll come back later because it hasn't been felt, it hasn't been dealt with. And so just learning to sit with that distress is so important to overcoming grief and not letting it consume your life. It's really about sitting there with that distress, knowing that it's normal, knowing that these grief processes are universal, and that if you were just willing to sit with them and get through the most painful phases, that it will evolve. And you may miss the person from time to time. You may still get sad from time to time when you think about that person, but they will be fewer and farther in between these sort of episodes of you having this sort of very sad feeling about what happened. And you will be able to carry on and have a new existence that is still full of meaning and full of life. And perhaps you'll even emerge with some important positive lessons on the other side.
Yeah. When I was thinking about the many endless types of loss people can and do experience, the one that always stays at the top of my head is when a parent loses a child. I can't imagine a worse scenario than that. And I asked you about that in one of our series about how a parent even begins to move through that. How can they ever be okay? And you had this to say, and it just blew my mind. So take a look at this. Here's where I really struggle with all of this, okay? If I am a father and I lose my child,
Yeah.
I don't know how I ever work through that. You can tell me these are the 5 stages of bereavement and grief, and you can tell me I need to go see a therapist and I need to work through my depression and da 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 da. I don't see how I could ever, ever get through that.
Yep. And I think accepting that you can't get through it is a big part of it. You don't have to necessarily stop grieving somebody. I think that people think, oh, I have to get over this. I have to get over this. That actually, that fight, that resistance actually makes it harder to get over anyway. But I always tell people, you know, my view about grief is that it can come and go, and it's like an ever changing process. And I don't think there's a necessarily stop point to grief. And when I experience personally grief, and I have a reaction to somebody that I lost, and I cry, I actually remember like how much I love the person. And actually to me, it's very comforting that years after I lose somebody, I can look at a picture and still cry about them, you know, that they were very meaningful to me, you know? And so I think we have to stop fighting it as if it's like this pathological thing we have to get away from. I think grief is something that's natural, it's normal, and it shows you how much you've cared about a person.
That was one of 2 series that Dr. Ho and I shot on bereavement, grief, and the mental health implications of those. What will viewers get? How will their life look after watching that series at MedCircle?
I think they're gonna learn that there are concrete steps you can take that can help you through the process, but also that there's not really this easy answer of, okay, let me just check this off and I'll be done. You won't be the same afterwards, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. And don't try to chase that sameness that you want from before it happened.
So good. I hope you guys are getting that.
It'll just be a different experience and it'll still be good.
Yeah. People chase the sameness.
Yeah.
You can't chase the sameness.
No.
Even if we're not talking about grief or loss, you can't chase the sameness.
No.
We're moving forward. The future is going to happen.
Yeah.
We can't chase the sameness. That's
Right.
good.
Yeah. Holding on to something in the past that you can't have back. Like, we can't have past back in general.
Yeah.
And certainly not after the loss of a loved one. It will be a different kind of normal, and that's okay.
Yes. Ooh, I love that. I'm going to write that down tonight. You can't chase the sameness. You can't do it.
Chase
Don't do it.
sameness.
I love that. We also shot a series just for the supporters. These are the people who have someone in their life that suffered loss or is suffering a loss, and how those supporters, how you as a supporter can help those people. And I want to give you guys an inside look to that series, so take a look at this. Are there signs that we can look out for as supporters that could indicate, all right, this person is grieving, and so if they are grieving, I know how to help them?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, the how are you question is a good opener, but it only works if you actually follow up on it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I think so that's part of it too, is when you say, how are you? They say, I'm fine. You know, if you say, okay, you kind of
bye.
just walk away.
Yeah.
And I think that people kind of expect that. They expect that you say, how are you? And you don't actually want to know. And so I think it's important to ask some follow-up questions.
I love that.
Oh, you know, you still feeling okay with your job? Like, are you hanging out more with your family? How are you eating? I mean, you don't want to bombard the person with questions, but like choose like 2 of your favorites and actually follow up. And I think that you get a lot more information. But in the absence of that, or if they're still not telling you information, then you watch for other behavioral cues, like them changing their routine by a lot. You know, they used to go to sleep around 10 or 11 at night, and now they're going to sleep at 2 or 3 in the morning. They come home and they just isolate. They completely don't talk to anybody. They don't pick up their phone. They haven't gone out. You look at them and they look a little disheveled, like they either haven't slept or like haven't taken a shower, or, you know, their clothes are kind of a mess. You know, those types of things I think are big clues. And the biggest clue is just them saying that they're sad. They don't feel right. I don't want to get out of bed. I don't know what life is about anymore. If they're saying these types of sad and hopeless things, then that's another clue that you really should try to help them address the problem in a more systematic way.
These supporters require support as well.
Yes.
And I want them to remember that in case they don't even go watch the series and just watch this. I want them to remember that you as a supporter need support as well. What will the supporters get? How will they be better at being a supporter after watching that series?
Well, you'll learn some good do's and don'ts from both of us, actually, like things that we really appreciate when people try to support us, and what we do that works when we try to support people. But also you'll learn that it's not all on you. You should not feel like the entire onus is on you to help heal this person. It's not.
Right.
But what you can offer is community. and you can offer a place for the person to reflect their own experiences. And you can help support them if and when they need professional services.
Yeah.
You can help them do some of the preliminary research, have them come watch these series on MedCircle, help them to understand that you need to interview your clinicians, that maybe it takes time before you find one that you really feel comfortable with, and offering to go with them and sit with them in the room. Watch MedCircle series with them. Just be with them. That is the most important thing that a supporter can offer somebody who's suffering.
So good, so good. Any final words for our viewers here?
Grief is universal, and I don't think we should be afraid of it.
Yes.
And I actually think that when I still have those punctuated moments of sadness where I really miss my grandmother, I just remember how much I love her. I actually really like it when I have those moments still.
I love them. That makes me feel good. I hope you guys feel good watching this, and I know you'll feel much better after you watch the series at MedCircle.com. Don't chase the sameness, okay? Don't chase the sameness. That is my mantra for the rest of the week. I'm Kyle Kittleson. Remember, whatever you're going through, you got this. Thanks for watching. Check out the links below for more information on how to access this full series, and subscribe to our YouTube channel to watch new mental health videos every week. Did you like what you heard in this video? If you want to ask a MedCircle doctor a question directly, you can learn how by visiting the links in the description below.